In today's video, we are releasing our official summer forecast of 2023. June 1st marks the meteorological start of summer, and that lasts all the way through the final day of August. So this is going to be from June 1st till the end of August. This forecast, before we get into things where we're going to break down the temperature forecast, the precipitation forecast, and the final overall forecast, very exciting stuff. We're going to be talking about our business trilogy maps. Now, in this video, every single graphic is made using our trilogy maps. You can check these out. We do have a 50% off discount going on across the entire store, and you can even use our 33% discount code direct on top of that, and that brings it to a crazy level of discount that you cannot beat anywhere. They are also the highest definition, most customizable maps you will find anywhere on the internet, so go ahead and check them out in the pinned comment and description down below to be able to make premium weather maps just like this. As we get into things, we're going to be starting here with our temperature forecast. As you can see, we expect really warm temperatures out west, and this looks drastically different from our previous summer forecast, but that's okay. Sometimes you completely change your mind on things, right? This is the final one, this is the official one, and this is really the most up-to-date guidance and most accurate guidance we have at this point. We do expect warmer temperatures overall in the west, and this has been a trend here for the last couple of weeks, and I do expect that trend to continue into the next couple of weeks and even next couple of months for the summer months. A lot of this is due to a lot of warmer waters and warmer air moving onshore to the west and really bringing in that positive PNA type pattern is what we call it. And we do actually have some areas where we're a little bit more confident in this. As we move on to graphic number 2 here, you can see that we have even further above average temperatures here out further west, where we do expect pretty extremely above average temperatures here. This is going to be a very, very hot summer out there, I do suspect. Last season, we had a very, very hot summer in the east. I do expect this to be quite the opposite actually here. And we can even move on to our third graphic here. And you can see that we do expect the peak of this warmth, the furthest above average area here, to be over the Rockies and Four Corner states, and just in general, some of these mountainous west states. Even some of the plains here getting involved in these far above average temperatures. And I just expect a pretty decent high pressure system, very, very warm, to set up over this area. This has multiple different impacts, okay, as we're taking a look at the overall summer forecast. For one thing, likely going to see not a lot of storm systems moving directly through this area. It's already not that common in the summertime. It's going to be even more challenging for something like that to take place here with this type of a pattern. Another thing that we're going to see in a minute is this likely is going to cause some cooler air to become more common here for the east, which also usually means some lower pressure, which means more precipitation, more storms, and most importantly, I think, is that this encourages tropical systems to be able to move very close or even onshore of the United States, especially in these areas. So we would be, particularly because of this feature, watching for landfalling tropical systems through the summer, especially here as the jet stream tries to do something like this sometimes with that cooler air. So a trough here in the east, we could see tropical systems latch onto that jet and try to do kind of an up the coast type track. That is a very common tropical track to see in this type of a pattern. As we move on to these other graphics, because I want to show a little bit more, we do see that there is below normal temperatures expected here in the east. So again, trough, jet stream kind of hooking around like this, that could have a tropical system latch on very easily and bring impacts up and down the east coast. That is not unheard of whatsoever. And even in some other cases, we'll sometimes see something like, a little bit more out, but still this could bring the chance for a tropical system to do something like this, which is still rather impactful. So in either case, this is looking quite bad for tropical impacts. As we move on to our final temperature outlook here, you can see that we do have far below normal temperatures expected here in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. I pretty much expect this to look like, a lot less 90s, a lot less 100-degree temperatures or more, although there will be warmer periods, and we can't rule out any heat waves during certain times. We think that there's going to be less 90 days than average and more 80s So it's still going to be hot. It's still going to be miserable. And you're probably not going to feel a difference that much, especially on some of those warmer days that aren't quite above average, but they're still near average. It's going to feel hot. But overall, when we look at it on paper, once it's all said and done, there's going to be less 90s, probably less upper 80s for most areas, and maybe even some 70s sprinkled in there as well. Some pleasant, cooler temperature patterns that move through. That is something that I could definitely see being a big time feature this upcoming summer. Now, as we move on to the precipitation forecast, we're going to go ahead and do that here. As you can see, we expect below normal precipitation here out west. Again, if a high pressure system sets up and brings warmer temperatures out here, no storm systems are going to want to move through here. Low pressure is not attracted to high pressure, quite the contrary. So it really leads towards drier conditions in an already drier climate, especially this time of year. This is going to set up for some extremely dry conditions over the summer months. That is my anticipation at this point. As we move on, we actually have a pretty far below average precipitation region up here for the Northwest, an area that I would say out of all of these states averages the highest amount of precipitation. We'll also see probably the most drastic decrease from what's typical. So that is what my expectations are at this point as far as precipitation is concerned, the below average precipitation. As we move into the above average amounts, I do expect that a lot of low pressure moving through with some of these colder air masses is going to lead towards more storms in general. Keep in mind that any bit of tropical activity in here could send any of these given regions that are impacted a very high chance at seeing far above normal precipitation, even on a seasonal basis. If you see, 10, 15, 20 inches from a tropical system of rainfall, all of a sudden you're looking at already reaching your average or being above average on the season, not even counting any other rainfall that happens over the 3-month course of summer. So you can see how that would lead towards easily far above average precipitation. But you can also see how that would be highly unpredictable looking months ahead like this. So no way to predict that this far out unless there was something coming on like June 1st, which there's not. So we really cannot see at this point whether or not that will happen and where that will happen and where it won't. But that is a factor to pay attention to that could drastically change things here. As we move on, we can see that we do have an area where we do expect some higher above average precipitation. Now, this is due to the fact that we do expect some coastal storms to move up the coast, but not only that, we do also anticipate more favorable tropical conditions offshore of the Gulf of Mexico, or I guess offshore of the Gulf Coast, better yet, and then also offshore of the East Coast. We expect better tropical conditions in here, which just leads us to believe there's a higher chance of landfall somewhere for some tropical systems. Again, going to be pretty hard to predict any specifics there, but that is what we anticipate at this point. Now, drumroll please, as we transition towards the most exciting part of the video, our overall forecast. We're going to walk through these different regions with you guys here. We expect very dry conditions in the Northwest. No real surprise there, as we've really seen this on our precipitation forecast already. We've talked about it during the temperature forecast. This is our anticipation. No surprise there. Warm and dry for the Southwest. We do anticipate some pretty hot conditions at times. Very dry, maybe even drier than the Northwest, even though the Northwest is seeing further below normal precipitation. That's just due to the fact that the Southwest sees less on average. So you're seeing below average in an already extremely low average amount of precipitation. You can do the math there. Very, very hot here across the Rockies and the Four Corner states, as we've talked about. We anticipate plenty of just very, very dry spells and heat waves for this area. It should be extremely hot due to what we talked about throughout the video. Dry here for the South Central. It's typically pretty dry. We do expect some slightly drier than what's typical conditions. That's going to set up for a pretty dry, pretty average temperatured summer this time around. Stormy here for the lighter green area. We expect this to be an area where especially we can see a lot of thunderstorms flaring up. We're already seeing the beginning signs of this for June, which is in the near future, and we expect the conditions to be favorable for this to happen also in July and August, all of which leading us to believe this is going to be a pretty stormy area here across the summertime. I expect this red area to be the highest probability of severe weather. Obviously, everywhere could, or anywhere could see severe weather, but this is just an area in particular that I pointed out where it should be the most favorable overall on a 3-month basis again. So a lot of averages happening there, but I think that this is an area to watch for pretty frequent setups there. This lighter blue area is supposed to be where we're expecting some slightly below average temperatures, but I didn't have room to write it on there, so I figured I'd just tell you guys in the video. Cooler and stormy here for this blue area. That's where we expect the coolest of the conditions. Again, not going to be frigid in summer, obviously, but it will be slightly noticeable at times, potentially some 70s sprinkled in there, like I mentioned, and likely a lot more 80s rather than 90s here for this area. And then, obviously, for the Gulf Coast and East Coast, we're watching the tropics. Again, very favorable there, offshore of the Gulf Coast and East Coast. We expect more chance than typical that we see some landfalling activity, and we're going to be watching that closely throughout the year. Speaking of the year, be sure to subscribe as we're going to upload daily throughout the year. Also, you can hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we do upload so you never miss one. Again, if you liked the maps that you saw in this video, these were all using our trilogy maps that are for sale right now. Again, 50% off and then 33% off on top of it, so don't miss out. It's going to be in the pinned comment and description down below. Be sure to also like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.